Good morning. Welcome to the regular Tuesday public meeting, or a meeting over many issues typically. We are short Rick Dahl, who is on vacation. We may call him a little later on a particular issue if we're able to. He's somewhere in the hinterlands of the Midwest. So let me begin the meeting and ask you if you are able to stand up and pledge to the flag with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In a reversal of things, Commissioner Weber.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. I have had the opportunity to review the minutes. I could not find any errors or suggestions or additions to suggest. So therefore, I move that we approve the minutes of our meetings from last week as presented.
Oh, I like that. We have a motion on the floor, and this is an opportunity for anybody who wishes to make a comment about that motion. I scanned the audience. We have a lopsided audience. We have about everybody here except for two on the left side. Got to watch out for those leftists.
You're on the left side from our viewpoint.
Seeing no one, all those in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion does carry. And Commissioner Weber.
Yes, today's consent agenda includes a number of items, including a call for bids that is scheduled for September 25th. This is a request for proposals for our armed security guard services. We have a requirement to provide guard services at the Hall of Justice with a body scanning device to make sure that people with weapons and such are not allowed in. The sheriff's responsibility is the courtroom, but we provide for the guard service for the public entrance. We also provide guard services at other locations, other campuses, including this building. You may have noticed our security personnel in the back corner of the room, and he does a tremendous job inspecting a number of different places where we've had concerns about unwelcomed guests camping out on county property. So again, we've had the company for a number of years, and it's time for a new request for proposals. Next, we have a series of agreements, contracts, and bid awards, including two projects from Public Works that deal with a planned series of improvements along South Cloverdale Road with varying amounts of monies from a number of different sources: ARPA funds, our own county road fund, the state surface or the federal government surface transportation block grant, and hopefully some additional funding for two projects dealing with South Cloverdale Road, including an intersection improvement with Comfort Road. Fourth item is a resolution rescinding a resolution passed earlier this year and changing the time and day of the meetings for the Building and Planning Advisory Council, sometimes referred to as BPAC. They're going to begin meeting on the third Mondays of each month at 3:30. BPAC includes businessmen interested in building and development that provide their advice on a regular basis to the department as we try to make sure that the department is more customer friendly as we can. Next, we've received letters from our favorite Federal Regulatory Commission. The folks are constantly monitoring the operation of the dams along the Lewis River, Merwin, Yale, and Swift, making sure that they comply with their licensing agreement with the federal government, which requires a number of ongoing maintenance and repairs and recreation requirements. So they give us a notice every time there's a change in any of those licensing procedures. And you'll notice no vouchers for today from the auditor's office. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd be glad to try to answer any questions that there might be. Otherwise, we'll make a motion.
No questions from me. Questions from the public? I see no hands.
All right. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve today's consent agenda as presented by staff.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the consent agenda. This is another opportunity for astute individuals to ask questions. How's that for trying to entice a question? Seeing no hands, I call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I also vote aye. The consent agenda does pass. I will note at this time that we do have a public hearing at 9:30, and we have a little time. So let us proceed with the motion items. And I think we know someone who's going to help us with that.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mike Moss, Public Services Director. The Facilities Maintenance Department has two motion items today, number 6 and number 7. The first one, number 6, concerns with the contract award and execution for a pavement project at the north parking lot of the Hall of Justice with Lakeside Industries for the amount of $110,262. Lakeside was actually the second lowest bidder. The lowest bidder, lowest responsible bidder, gave a written notice to the county on August 14th that they'd be withdrawing their bid due to time constraints. That's why we moved forward with the second lowest bidder, which was Lakeside. We actually got 4 bids in on July 25th for this project. This is the last parking lot we're doing around HOJ. Last summer, we did get the chance to do the east parking lot and south parking lots. It's around 18,000 square feet. We'll also be doing a riser in the north parking lot to help with a little bit of ponding we have in that area. And then we'll also be restriping that parking lot after it's being done paving.
So, Mr. Moss,
Yes.
To your knowledge, is this the first time since Hall of Justice was built that this kind of repair has been done?
In the last couple of decades, yes. Before that, I think there was a lot of patchwork done to that parking lot. I know we had a lot of storm drain issues in the south parking lot also, along with the north that we fixed last summer. So I think it's just been.
There is an interesting pattern with roadways or asphalt jobs that are aged and showing their age. It looks kind of like a black colored version of the back of an alligator. So it's called gatoring.
Correct.
And both parking lots were in severe condition.
Yes. And very true also with the juvenile and the jail parking lots. We actually just crack sealed those last week, and we'll be striping those parking lots at the same time or striping the north parking lot. So that's what we were noticing in both around the parking lots around the HOJ, a lot of alligatoring. And so over time, you only crack seal many times, and you have to actually grind that back and start over. And that's where we're at right now.
Not to belabor the subject, but we also notice a severe case of gatoring around the streets serving this building.
Yes.
But those are not in our jurisdiction.
No, those are.
Well, goodness.
Yeah, we're actually visiting with the city of Kelso about the streets around the admin building here. These parking lots are on our list for improvements over the next couple of summers, summer of 25 and summer of 26. So we're working with them hand in hand because the streets that are to our west here, a lot of people think is part of the county's parking lot is actually a city street. So we don't want to make improvements in the parking lot without making some improvements with the city of Kelso out there.
And as always, it's kind of nice to have a local company become the lowest bidder.
Correct.
If you pave up the sides a little bit, you could turn that into a pool, right?
We could, or a skating ramp.
Yes. How are you going to deal with the potential flooding? It's pretty low, isn't it? What's the level compared to the
North
level
lot
of the
or the
dam?
north parking lot?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna use our crews. We're making sure before we start with Lakeside that we'll jet those lines out to the main line to make sure they're open and clear. And then we're gonna put I believe it's a 4-inch or 6-inch riser on that storm drain to get it higher up. So make sure that we don't have a ponding issue in that north lot.
We don't need a little sump pump?
We can go that direction if needed.
I beg your pardon?
We can go that direction next summer or next winter if needed. If this doesn't fix it, we may
Yeah.
have to go that direction, yes.
So the drainage is, how will you do the drainage? Because you don't have much of a downhill.
No, it's underground, goes to First Avenue there to the city of Kelso line.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And how soon does this work begin?
I believe it's starting September 20th, which is a Friday. They'll do some grinding late in the day. If that's a Friday, and then the 21st and 22nd will be the project over the weekend, since we do have business weekdays in that building.
So on Monday morning, things should be normal
Yep.
for
Yeah.
people?
Yeah.
Excellent planning.
Yeah, and exactly what we did with the south lot and the east side, and it did work out quite well. We got it striped before they actually came in.
Yeah. I can't help but make a comment that oftentimes, like an I-5 southbound now, the impact is like, why aren't they working round the clock to shrink that time
Shrink the
down?
time.
The cost is immense.
Mhm.
That is to say, the cost of the interference is immense, and the cost to do it round the clock is nowhere near the size, so. Any questions from the audience? Seeing no questions. Go ahead.
All right. I guess just one question. Does the parking asphalt replacement also include the striping, or is that separate?
It's including the striping.
Okay.
No hands up.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I move that we award the contract and execution with Lakeside Industries for the Hall of Justice North Parking Lot Asphalt Replacement Project as described by staff.
Last chance for any comments? This time truly I see none. I call for the vote, and all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion does pass.
Thank you. Item number 7, amendment number 5 to the personal service agreement with Day Wireless for radio services and maintenance. This is for the county's public safety radio system that includes mobile and portable radios, control stations, pagers, towers, and associated equipment. We have about 400 pieces of equipment, actually 391 in this contract. The departments that are affected that have equipment is the offender services, juvenile court, emergency management, IT, and the sheriff's office and motor pool. The sheriff's office and motor pool. Motor pool is equipment for the county's road crews like excavators, trucks, 10-yard dump trucks, all that equipment. Those two departments alone have about half of the equipment under this contract. It's a annual increase. This year it's only $412.29. Last year, I think it was in the $300 range. The original contract runs out of extensions next year. It's our recommendation after this amendment here is next year do go out, actually it runs through 2026. A correction there. Our recommendation is probably to go out next year. We'll go out next year for bid since is actually number 5 extension on this contract. Originally signed in 2017 through the OFM office in Claire Hauge, so it's quite dated. Last time they did go out to bid, there was only one responder, but not saying there will be multiple responders next time we go out. It's quite a task of work they have in the contract. There's multiple pages of work to be done on the services, mainly making sure the towers, there's 9 towers around the county, but also the scope of work includes annual preventive maintenance on all of those 400 pieces of equipment, and also making sure they come to us in a timely manner. The service standards are set that they got to be available via telephone for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the response time has to be within 15 minutes due to the fact that these items that may go down, or maybe for the sheriff's office or DEM, they need to respond fairly quickly. So, questions?
I thought it was quite amazing to have a renewal that only of almost $28,000, and the increase from the previous year was only a little over $400.
Yeah, I agree. I did have a chance to visit with the sheriff's office and our road supervisors and our motor pool supervisor this last week to make sure they're happy with the response that they were getting from the Day Wireless, and all parties agreed that they were good.
It's worth making a comment that I think this is also a testimonial to the quality of the product. So you can maintain it for fairly economical numbers, and replacement. Let me back up. We as a public can be fairly jaded about products. We go to a store and we pick up a television, say it's rather complex in there. I mean, really complex. And we bring it home and we plug it in and it always works. That's quite amazing. Having been on the other side trying to make the darn things work. It's really one of those things when I've asked for departments, when they present a proposal, we need this, or we're changing to that.
Mhm.
The holistic cost here is something where I hope when the RFP goes out and all that in the future, that we actually do a long view and say, if we buy this product, our experience is that
Right.
it's a little more today, it's a lot less
That's
tomorrow.
long term. I agree. Yes.
Okay, yeah, you've done a wonderful job along those lines. While I have the microphone, I did miss a question on the earlier one.
Yeah.
And that one is, does a person who wins the bid, or the entity that wins the bid, is able to back out without any consequence? It seems like it's
That
like
might
I
be
promised you to buy something and I'm not buying it, right?
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often with us. So there is no consequence, especially they give us to it in writing before. There was no contract signed. That might be a different story if there was a contract in place. We were asking for the contract for a couple of weeks to get started on this project for the north parking lot. Did not get it back. They finally said, hey, we just can't fit in our schedule. So that's when they wrote the county a letter saying they're backing out or removing their bid. But it'd be a different story maybe if there was a contract in place.
Good, okay. Have you seen this before other than this time?
Not with the county.
Hmm.
We did have, when I was on the city council, in fact, back in the 80s, we had a
How far
company.
back? Oh, never
That
mind.
far back. We had a paving project that the contractor had started and could not finish. And it cost him the bond that he'd posted, and we hired somebody else. That also cost him, that company, that lowest responsible bidder. That company could no longer bid.
Oh.
And we had some questions at the time about the quality of the product. And I had a conversation with our our lawyer and saying, oh, finally, we don't have to worry about this contractor anymore because he's no longer responsible bidder. And the lawyer advised me that businesses get reorganized all the time. And he predicted that he would reorganize, place his wife as president of the company, and they would get an advantage the next time they bid because that company hadn't bid before. It was like starting
Yeah,
over.
starting
So
from scratch. Yes.
it was a good lesson and interesting experience.
Why don't you go ahead?
I have a quick question. You said that you were going to repave the county parking lot out here. So are you guys just gonna leave that little bitty tiny stretch of Third Avenue that's full of holes left? Just leave it there?
We'll be working with hopefully with the city of Kelso on this project, a joint thing, knowing that
Okay.
if we're doing our side, we might make sure that it's
Why don't
even a
you
level
just ask
with
them to let
theirs.
you do that side as well, because it's like not even an eighth of a mile. And
Yeah.
it's so full of potholes, and not only your side, but their side. I mean, wouldn't it be economical for you just to do it yourselves and say, ask permission from the city of Kelso? I mean,
It's just not as easy as just working in someone's jurisdiction. If it's a joint partnership, yeah, that's why we're trying to work with the city on different projects around here. So
I mean,
that'd be the plan. Yes.
I mean, that'd be absurd not to fix that super short stretch of Third Avenue.
Yeah. Understand completely. Yeah.
So actually, we're back on the item number 7.
We ready for a
Yes,
motion?
please.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve amendment number 5 to the personal services agreement with Day Wireless Systems for radio services and maintenance as described by staff.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the amendment number 5. I think we've discussed that plenty, but you still have an opportunity to speak. I see no hands up on the web. See nobody in the audience. I call for the vote. All those in favor, please vote aye.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion does pass.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Mr. Moss, before you leave, I wanted to make a comment. We had a meeting yesterday yesterday morning in which a member of the public had some very sharp and criticism of your department and your relationship with the county engineer. And I just wanted to say publicly that you have our full support in how you operate that department. And you have tremendous responsibilities, not only with facilities and maintenance, but with the entire road department and engineering department, parks department, purchasing, and building and planning. And I don't want to speak for my colleague, but I have always been impressed with your talent and your ability to perhaps multitask. But I want to thank you for the job that you do. Whenever we have customers that come in with concerns, you're always willing to work with them as best you can. Sometimes it has to be a two-way street, that there has to be openness on the part of the person complaining. And that sometimes makes it a little bit difficult. But again, I just wanted to say thank you to you as well as to Susan for the job that you do for the citizens of this county.
I appreciate that, Commissioner. I appreciate the fact that you guys allow me to build this team over the last 4 or 5 years. I was able to bring in some good quality people, and we have I believe, probably the best management team of any department in the county. So I feel very fortunate. So thank you.
Yeah, I can add that you, can you get him a larger hat? This is, managing a large group you have is no simple task. Sometimes it's easy to manage everybody if they're all of the same ilk, but you're spread all over the place from sublime to the ridiculously minute. Job well done.
Thank you.
So we have 5 minutes worth of citizen comment possible before we go into the public hearing. And that public hearing, for those of you who are chomping at the bit to find out about it, it's establishing of a no parking zone. We'll get to that in a moment. I'm waiting for someone in the public to speak. So, Mr. Weber, do you want to adjourn, to recess for 5 minutes? Last chance.
Last chance. Uh, We can take a break,
We'll take a.
or it actually just might take staff a few minutes to get up here to get ready for the hearing.
Yeah, can you saunter up slowly? Let's check that saunter out. One thing that probably the county engineer will do anyhow is everything is very simple. Just go out there and plant the stake with the sign on it, right? So Dennis, have you gotten any feedback about the no parking zone? You've
No.
gotten nothing?
Nothing.
Any complaints from the Cloverdale or the Green Mountain bypass? I haven't heard anything in a few days. That doesn't mean it's a good thing. It means it's stabilized out.
I'm just so thankful that we've resolved the tire dust issue. Such a critical
For
element. in-
that project, yes. Is, what size particulates are they claiming would come off bicycle tire dust?
I have no idea. Dirt size, yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I haven't read the research onto bike tires.
You know, I watched the Tour de France and the Vuelta a España is on now. And see, this morning at 4:15 started stage 10. I've never heard them complain about the dust. And those are professionals. By the way, have you ever seen a curve of the power output of a human being as a function of duration? What's the maximum power output you can put if you only have to do it for 1 second, 10 seconds, 30 seconds and on down? These cyclists put out an amazing amount of power. They can do approximately in excess of a half a horsepower for an hour. I don't know what they're like the following day, but it's an incredible amount of power. Most of us can do 1/10 of a horsepower for maybe 10 minutes. That's why horses were so successful and so useful in the past. All right, we're at 9:30. Let's go into our next episode, which is the no parking zone. I don't have any questions. Do you have? Let's go ahead and
don't-
have you
Just
present.
review why we were here.
Yeah.
Okay. So good morning, Susan Eugenius, County Engineer. We received a request from the Port of Longview to install a no parking zone on Willow Grove Road, which is County Road number 10,100, from milepost 2.94 to 3.55, and that is the area directly in front of the park. They brought this to us because they felt that there was parking issues early morning prior to the day park opening. This came about, and it only occurs during fishing season because you have your day park users, your fishermen who fish from the shore. They like to get in there and get set up early morning. The park opening is officially at sunrise, and it closes at sunset. And so the park, they get there prior to the park opening. In past summers, the camp host was opening the gate prior to sunrise. So these day fishers were going out prior to sunrise. There is not boats and or cars with boats on trailers because the boat launch is open 24 hours a day. So that is the request from the port. I have not received any comments from residents, complaints for residents for this situation happening.
In order for the comments to have value, it has to be a resident. That's their standing, is that
All comments, I believe, are valid. All road users.
even one from Omaha, Nebraska, where somebody just decides to throw something in.
They could publicly use that road. It's open to everyone.
I see, okay.
So is there a record of accidents happening?
I have no records of
It
accidents.
was more preventive rather than
I believe-
in response to a series of accidents.
I believe that was the port's reasoning behind it.
That reminds me of yesterday in the issue on Craft Road. You mentioned you might go out and see the vegetation if it's blocking. That's on your agenda at some point?
Craft Road, yes.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Any other questions? Nope. Dennis, so this is a time when I take the gavel and open the public hearing. The public is welcome to come out. Make any comments, suggestions?
I guess in thinking about this, and I've used that park several times and fished from the bank, I'm wondering if it's been looked at, would it be more feasible to have the park just open 24 hours a day during the fishing season? And I hate to assume, because I know what that does to situations, if there's other problems that happen at night out there, if it's open 24 hours a day, just to have the sheriff cruise through there a couple of times during the evening hours or the late night hours, early morning hours, whatever, to help try and minimize negative impacts to the park. I'm just wondering if anybody's talked about or even looked at other options than just throwing up no parking signs.
I think the Port of Longview, the commissioners do a pretty good job, and typically when they, in this case, they asked for something, we kind of looked at it and we couldn't come up with much of a downside. It is an area where, guess what? I ride my bicycle occasionally, and it's always difficult when you're bicycling if they're parked cars that are very close to the road area. It's not infrequent that someone just flings the car door open and all that. So I think they're just trying to do something preventive. They've given it some thought.
If you put the signs up, who's going to enforce it?
Well, it's like a lot of other signs, including the speed limit signs on the freeway. It's a catch as you catch can, but at least it's an indication of what's acceptable. I don't know, did you have another answer to that, Dennis?
No.
I mean, I agree with you. We shouldn't have laws on the books that are not enforceable or enforced, but there are enough, this kind of thing, I don't think has a real downside to it, except for the locals. And no one's commented, except for you right now.
Of course. Okay, well, I guess is the sign going to say no parking or is it going to say no parking or standing?
It will be a no parking sign.
So legally, a fisherman sitting in his car right there in front of a no parking sign with the engine running is still perfectly legal to be sitting there.
That is a sheriff interpretation, not a public works interpretation.
It's a legal interpretation.
Well,
There's,
yeah.
I don't think
Okay.
there's much fishing from the road in front of the park, though. That's not where they're fishing. Right?
No, they're fishing from the shore
Inside the park.
inside the
Right,
park.
Right.
Right.
So, I mean, there are other places along Willow Grove Drive where that could be a problem because it's right next, but it's a long ways down.
Perhaps more importantly, how good is the fishing at that spot?
I don't fish. I have no idea. But I know a lot of people fish from there. I know it's one of the popular spots on the Columbia where there is public access. I mean, we have Willow Grove Park and then we have Kalama. And those are the only two locations that I can think of where there's
Okay.
public access.
So that's the best answer we can give you.
Yeah, thanks.
So two questions. How was the public notified of this resolution if they wanted to come in and comment this morning? If a fisherman wanted to comment, how would he know that you're putting up no parking signs?
So the public notification process is it's run in the newspaper of record. So it was published in the Daily News. And in addition to that, Public Works went out and posted both ends on both sides of the road, stating that there was a public hearing with the notice and the date and time on it.
Okay, so there was posting out in the location, so people using that would see that, or fishermen parking there today would see a sign saying, hey, this is coming up.
Yes.
Okay. Second comment, I don't consider the Daily News an official publication for getting to the public anymore. They only have a very small distribution. And those of us, it's old news, et cetera. So I think the county, or we need to consider what is an official notification process. Daily News does not qualify anymore for
Well,
notifying the public.
I think the rules that set up public notification are state rules. And according to those rules, it is the largest regular circulation, which means it qualifies. Now, whether it has adequate enough coverage, that's a different question. You and I can agree that
Adequate
their
coverage.
circulation has gone way
Right.
down, but
Right.
yeah.
Okay, and then what? now-
There is every year in the legislature, there's a huge debate between the media on revising that public notice law to allow electronics to have a say. So far, the newspaper lobby has prevailed. They don't want to lose that money. That's pretty important revenue for them.
Just personal comment, the Columbia River Reader probably has more local reading than the Longview Daily.
It's
So-
just up it's once a month though, is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, okay. And then what's going to say that now you've picked this particular zone? Is there now, are they going to park in a different zone a little further down the road? or up the road?
There is no preventing them parking in a different location.
Okay.
I look at these kinds of issues as part of our intergovernmental relations. If there's no reason to have, if there's no real strong objections or conflicts, why not collaborate with other elected officials and us, a spirit of cooperation. So I always hesitate to try to second guess other elected officials and the job that they do, even if we might have political differences, but the default is collaborate.
I agree. That's a very good statement.
Good morning, commissioners. I do have a couple of questions, guys. Why is the boat launch open 24 hours, but the park's not?
Those are port decisions. Those are not county decisions. That is purely controlled by the Port of Longview.
That would be something I would take into consideration when making this decision, only because if the park is open to the public for recreation, to the point that, yes, these people are going to go park somewhere else. If it's a problem in front of the park because it's closed, it's going to be a problem somewhere else. I just view that as all we're doing is moving the problem either up the road or down the road. And if the boat ramp is open 24 hours, we might want to have a conversation with the port in collaboration with other elected officials, as was just stated, with regards to maybe having the park open 24 hours along with the boat ramp. Because I can tell you when I go duck hunting, we're there well before the sun goes up. And it's nice to have the access to those parks because they are open 24 hours. And as a fisherman, I understand what they're going through and talking about also. So it's just kind of why are we doing it for one and not for the other situation? So that might be a conversation to be had prior to the approval of the project.
I think that the distances are also pretty narrow for their parking. There's not a whole lot of extra room for, width-wise. It's not a huge shoulder. It's just not enough room on the top of that dike.
So I believe there is enough room for a car to get off the roadway. Yeah.
Sure, yeah, but
I see no hands up. At this point, I'll use the gavel and close the public hearing and turn it over to my colleague.
all right. Mr. Chairman, I move that we do approve the resolution establishing a no parking zone on the portion of Willow Grove Road near Willow Grove Park between milepost 2.94 and 3.55.
I don't have any other comments. I think the public's had its crack at it. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion does pass. So now we are actually we have a little bit of time for more public commentary, or we can recess to give the Board of Health a chance to come and take its place up in the dais in preparation of the Board of Health meeting. In the meantime, if you want to say something, hands up or come this way. On Wednesday, the 28th, that's tomorrow, all meetings are canceled. And next week, all meetings Monday through Wednesday are canceled. Our first meeting on Wednesday, our first Wednesday meeting will be September 11th, and that's where the Southwest Washington Regional Airport will come and present the budget for the upcoming year. And
And we'll meet the new director.
I beg your pardon?
And we'll meet the new director.
And you'll meet the new director, yes. And Wednesday, September 25th, that's 2 weeks after that, there will be a discussion, I assume, on the dock recording fees. So We have someone at the podium. Go ahead. Yes, speak, please.
I'm going to make some public comments here that I'm going to put on the record and hand them off to the clerk of it.
Do you have
the-
them written?
Yes,
Be sure and leave them with copy.
I will absolutely. These are my remarks for today. To the fervent critics of the current Board of Health, I am truly curious what it is you want the current and future Board of Health members to do about the devastating national trend lines on obesity, drug addiction, serious mental health crises, of increasing alienation and despair, of the breakdown of the family structure, of failing educational standards, and demoralizing social decay. What tools in the toolbox, the arsenal or your imagination, will help fix these persistent problems? How do we bring individuals who have free will out of their self-destructiveness using soft methods? If you can pull that ghostly rabbit from the hat, you have done more than has been done since we greatly increased funding for health monitoring in the mid-1960s. Billions have been spent and our problems have only exacerbated. Here are my suggestions. We need a regional inpatient mental health crisis and drug treatment center to house those truly unable to properly fend for themselves. We need to teach and promote self-esteem through fitness and mental resilience and coping skills. We need to make people accountable for bad decisions. We need to ensure our schools effectively show how bad decisions can destroy lives. We need to promote healthy eating habits and how to preserve health and vitality. We need to refrain from prejudice regarding race, ethnicity, faith, or sexual orientation, including blaming children for acts of the historic past. That's regarding CRT, of course. We need to teach optimism and hope, not fear and loathing. We need to let children be children and not miniature adults. A lot of you seem content to just parrot whatever the DC tells you. You're often taking advice from bribed officials under intense political pressure to produce a result that pleases corporate sponsors rather than reveal hard truths. Over the years, many drugs have been pulled, products recalled that were revealed to be harmful. Studies have been hidden. It happens often. We haven't had a robust and uncorrupted bureaucracy since the JFK administration. I could go on for hours on this. I have brought hundreds of pages to this body of peer-reviewed published literature on the harms of the mRNA technology, including warnings by the main patent holder. I have brought many studies pointing to the folly and poor utility of public masking. I have brought you statements from Fauci, Birx, Collins, and others regretting and rescinding prior dictates, yet many of you cling to the original pronouncements like they were sermons on the mount rather than speculation in the moment. Of the last pandemic, the most galling insult to the American public was the absolutely proven fact that they all knew that COVID was a leak from the lab, yet they lied for years to hide it. They knew the lethality and who would be at risk. The most at risk were not protected well. Society did not need to shut down, as Sweden proved true. I brought studies showing that they knew hydroxychloroquine worked as early as 2005, yet they lied. I brought proof that the entire world was using ivermectin effectively, while our FDA called it horse-based. Courts forced a retraction of that absurd attempt to discard it a very safe medicine. Why are you so close to re-examination? Is it pride, foolishness, low mental critical thinking faculty, or just blind hatred politically? We need to move forward. If the sponsors of these issues have taken accountability, why can't you? We have dragons to slay to fix what has failed while you lob insults at political rivals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have a wonderful opportunity here to get a PSA from our illustrious auditor.
Yes, thanks for having me. It's very exciting times in elections, and it is happening very quickly. For those of you that don't know, we are conducting our first statewide mandatory manual recount since 2004. You may not have seen this. I'm disappointed a little bit that the Daily News hasn't been there. This is kind of a historical moment for us and a great opportunity for us to shine. So I invite you all. We are conducting the recount across the hall in the GMR. You can come observe. I'll give you a tour of what we're doing and you can see for yourself. You can watch the hand recount yourself. And it's happening very quickly, much more quickly than I anticipated. Cowlitz County had exactly 30,000 ballots in the primary that we are recounting. And yesterday we recounted 18,500. So we will be done by this afternoon. So if you have any interest in watching the process, you should do it after this meeting.
It's also streaming.
It is. You can watch it from home. If you go to our website, you can stream it from home. No sound, and you're not close enough to verify the votes on the ballot because we can't get good images of ballots on camera, but you can watch the process.
And there's a proctor in the room, or who's
We have
supervising everything?
observers. Yeah, so the teams are moving so quickly. We have 3 supervisors, my elections manager, my elections lead, and myself serving as supervisors so that our teams that are recounting stay in place so that ballots aren't moving back and forth. We collect their batches as they complete them and bring them a new batch, and then we reconcile their hand count. So if you come into the room, you'll see that there are table tents set up on the tables for each of the candidates. There were 6 candidates in this race for Commissioner of Public Lands. And they first sort out all of the candidates by candidate names, the ballots by candidate names, and then they individually tally the counts for each candidate. When they're finished, they raise their hand and a supervisor comes over, makes sure that they individually came up with the correct count. Then the supervisor takes it over to the machine count totals. So the teams don't know the machine count totals. The supervisor compares the hand count to the machine count. If it's good, they proceed on with the next batch. If it's not, they recount. And then if it's not counted correctly the second time, a third count is done by a separate team.
And then when you have all the batches, the counts for all the batches, do you manually add the counts up?
Well, so what we're doing is looking for discrepancies. Like I say, we went through 18,500 yesterday with 0 discrepancies. So what we would have in the end, we would retally our discrepancies. Once we go through that process, 2 recounts, an independent third recount. If after that third recount, it's still a discrepancy, that becomes the new total, but we haven't encountered that yet.
Okay, I can knock a hole in that. So I really recommend that in the end, you've got all the numbers for all the batches, add them up on a spreadsheet, check them out. And that total should be the correct total. Because at this point, you're counting on the machines spitting you out the correct
True.
total. And you don't know if there's a nefarious piece of software that says, report the correct count for the batches, but report the number I want for the total. I don't think that's happened here, but that way you can close that loop completely.
You know, it's interesting that you bring that up because like I say, we haven't conducted a statewide recount since 2004. Everything is different. We literally wrote new procedures. All of us counties shared procedures. And we took some pieces of some counties that worked and that were things that we didn't think of. What you're bringing up right now is something I didn't think of. I'm personally going to run a tape at the end too of all the batch reports, simply because the laws change, our technology changes. So every time we're in this position, it's like doing it for the first time. So I appreciate the input.
So because the land commissioner is a political race that they file by partisan choice, do we have representatives from both parties that are serving, or are they on the teams?
Well, they are personally invited and we have lots of room. However, we have had observers there yesterday and today, but so far, only observers representing one candidate up the Grove. So all day, both days, no other observers, other than some people in this room that have been interested in checking in. I appreciate it.
So you answered my first questions I was going to have about the details of the land commissioner on the recount. So now you've got verifying your process here in Cowlitz County. How do you get a verification from the next process, when you forward these to the state, do they confirm that what you sent before or what you sent is exactly what was entered in by the computer process?
Another good question. So this has been a learning experience. If those of you that don't know, I didn't come to elections until 2006. So I heard the horror stories of the 2004 gubernatorial, but I personally did not take part in that recount. So it was news to me. However, we auditors in each county had to upload our procedures. It wasn't just for us to share, it was for the Secretary of State's office to review each of our procedures and give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And then the Secretary of State in statute also has they have the obligation to visit, I think the statute says, as many counties as possible to review their procedures on site. And I know that they selected 10 counties that they are, Cowlitz is one of them, that they are on site reviewing the process. So once each county completes their totals, the canvassing board gets together to meet and certifies our new abstract of votes and any changes. We all submit, and there is a deadline for every county to complete the recount, which is September 3rd. We all submit to the state, and then the state reviews all of the recounted results, and then the state certifies after that. So if there are any issues, the state will contact that county.
What I'm asking then is that of all of you, the counties submitting their numbers to the state, therefore, there should be a tally at the state that you can actually look online and say, yeah, there's my Cowlitz number. It's the number I submitted.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
All of us are required online to publish results. We have official results published right now. When we're done with the recount, we'll also publish a link that says, here are the results of our recount race. And it's required by law in our abstract to list any discrepancies, that you would see the discrepancies in the results.
Right, but when the state has their total tally for the recount, that would be displayed by county so that you can look down and say, yeah, that's the number that
Yep.
I submitted.
Yep, they will. They also have an obligation to publish the new abstract of votes and certify it. So you'll be able to see the difference.
Also, extending your question, then I imagine the campaigns will take all those numbers and add them up manually to make sure, it's easy to hide things if you have a lot of numbers and you're trying to play a game, but there's always somebody out there that's going to go perform the last operation.
And I'll tell you that the parties have been very involved in this up front, asking for a lot of information, submitting a lot of public records requests for information. For example, a lot of requests for the numbers of challenged, cured, and final rejected. So they're really taking a deep dive into the numbers before we get started in preparation for that.
I would just like to publicly thank you, Carolyn. I've had the opportunity to go and observe multiple processes during this election. And your diligence and your team's diligence during this process actually restores a little bit of confidence in the election process for me. So I just want to publicly thank you you guys are doing a great job. We're fortunate to have you, and you've chosen a good team.
Thank you. That is our goal, actually, winning people over and restoring confidence one voter at a time. So I invite all of you to come over. I will show you exactly what the teams are doing. You can observe yourself. You can hand tally yourself and review it for yourself.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Carolyn.
So we sent notice to your party chairs. We don't take volunteers, but we do request observers. So official notices were sent to each of your party chairs asking for observers to attend. But we want over there. We want you to see what we're doing. And I didn't add, but the policy count, I can't remember the exact totals, Dennis probably can. In the beginning, it was separated by 200-ish oaks.
My,
This is
my
a-
complaint here is that,
Not on the microphone.
yeah, you all needed to be at a microphone.
I just wanted to add that the 2004 gubernatorial recount, I don't know the exact numbers, but I believe it was separated statewide by roughly 200 ballots. It didn't end up that way, but at the beginning of the recount, it started at roughly 200. This is a much closer recount. Statewide, it's separated by 51 ballots. Out of 1.9 million ballots, 51 ballots statewide. We are making history right now. I want you guys to be a part of it. Come see it.
Thank you. We are at the 10 o'clock hour. Shall we call the Board of Health in?
Lindy, come on up.
Well, Lindy, you're the only one here. It looks like it'll be your decision. He's in Missouri.
Why wouldn't we be able to?
I don't.
I think Mary Jane is planning to zoom in. She told me she was planning to zoom in. I don't think we were in citizen comment. So yeah, you need to adjourn that previous meeting. Yeah.
Okay, my colleague has apprised me that because we had citizen comments and all that, the business of the first meeting is closed. So I will adjourn that meeting, and that gives us the opportunity to open up the Board of Health meeting as its independent meeting. So do you stop recording and restart recording?